I will start. So I guess why don't you start by introducing yourself? Um,
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Sarah, and I run the Learn Dyslexia Instagram and Twitter accounts. I started those accounts this past summer in July of 2020 because everybody was home, and I just was looking for a different way to reach out to people. I've been dyslexic my entire life, and for me, it was something I always knew about, which I'm really lucky. But I didn't really kind of face it until I got to college. And I felt like I wasn't very smart and that I just didn't know anybody else that had dyslexia, especially at my university. And then I just started talking to other students and I realized how common it truly is to have dyslexia. And so I started kind of getting involved with dyslexia awareness by helping local groups get fundraising for scholarships and just talking to other students that have dyslexia as well as prospective students. That was one of my jobs on campus. I worked with prospective students. So I was kind of able to talk to them about my journey with dyslexia, especially if they also had a learning difference or dyslexia themselves. But then, of course, everybody got sent home. So I started this Instagram and this Twitter account to just kind of reach out to people while I was at home and kind of in a different way. So it was some kind of a marriage made in heaven anyway, because I study advertising at the university that I go to. So I kind of was able to put what I've learned in the classroom to use. So I'm very excited.
okay, well that sounds really really great. Um, so as someone with dyslexia, do you maybe want to start by telling a little bit more about what your personal experience has been and what really inspired you to start advocating? I know you touched upon that a little bit in your introduction, but maybe a little more in depth, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned earlier, I've known I'm dyslexic my entire life. And really, the credit for all of that goes to my parents. They recognized the very early signs of my dyslexia, like me flipping my lowercase b's and d's when I was spelling, or p's and q's, or getting a nine confused as a letter. And they also recognized me saying different words, like temperature used to be temperature, or spaghetti was biscotti. And it's one of those things that they still tease me about today, and it was really cute at the time, but they also recognized it as something where they knew I was doing something different than my older brother did when he was my age, and there was a reason for that. And luckily for me, they knew what that reason was, and it was dyslexia. So they were very hands-on with my education, and they helped me kind of work through the different areas in education where I struggled. So spelling was a big one for me. I always struggled with spelling, and we would put up like cue cards all around the house in different areas, like the kitchen or the toaster, or on a door to my room or whatever. And whatever the kind of word I was trying to learn that week, or the words I was learning to spell, they would have on those cue cards, and it really helped me subconsciously like figure out what it was and kind of relate things and stuff like that. So that was one of the major ways that I was able to kind of further my education when I was younger. But then I got to university and it was completely different. I come from a small town, so I'm really kind of able to in high school and middle school kind of mold my own education in my own way. It's one of the benefits of having a small town. But then of course university is this big thing that you can't really shape because it's an institution. So I was really worried as a freshman, how am I going to get through this? Like, I didn't feel like I was smart enough. And I thought my peers were understanding things way easier than I was. But I started talking to my peers, and they had dyslexia too, or they knew somebody that had dyslexia. And it made such a world of difference in my own confidence and my ability to approach what I was doing in classes and my college work. And I think that really turned my whole college experience around. And now I'm a student. I just got a 4.0 in my last semester. I'm going to be graduating in May of 2021, and hopefully I'll have honors when I graduate. If right now, if I graduated, I would. So I think it really boosted my confidence to just talk to people, kind of like how we are now, just to kind of gain a different perspective and to really understand that dyslexia isn't a disadvantage. It really can be an advantage, but you have to approach it correctly.
Mhm. Well, congratulations on your 4.0, first of all. Um,
Thank you.
but would you maybe mind talking or giving some advice to new dyslexia advocates and organizations like ourselves who are trying to work and promote dyslexia?
Yeah, well, I don't feel like I'm very experienced in that. Let me just put that out there right now. I haven't even had a whole year of doing the social media aspect of dyslexia awareness yet. But if I had to give my advice, I would say just talking to people, being very open to different perspectives. I know there's a lot of people out there that are debating whether or not we should treat dyslexia as something that's kind of like a social issue or a medical thing, and maybe we should abandon medical terms like diagnosis and all of that. But I think overall, just kind of being open to all perspectives and being able to just have that conversation, it makes a world of difference because there's so many people that don't want to talk about it. They don't want to say the word dyslexia. They don't want to bring it up. And they're really kind of afraid of what dyslexia means because it means that they're different or that their brain doesn't function the same way as somebody else. And I think we really need to have a conversation about dyslexia so we don't have to be afraid of it. We don't have to, kind of struggle with what it means to be a dyslexic. So for dyslexia awareness and advocating for it, I say as much as possible, just try to be open, even if, somebody doesn't know what dyslexia is, that's the perfect opportunity to talk to them about it. So someday they might be able to kind of figure out what dyslexia is and recognize it.
Like you mentioned, there's a lot of misconceptions about dyslexia. So, how would you personally address those misconceptions and work to talk to people and really like correcting those ideas?
That's a really great question because there are so many misconceptions and myths about dyslexia and what it means to be a dyslexic. But something I always like to point back to is just how many world and life changing dyslexics there have been. I mean, our computer, the lights that we have, light bulbs, everything it seems like in our lives that we use on a daily basis have come from a dyslexic brain or have been developed by somebody who worked with a dyslexic or in a team of dyslexics. And I think when you're dealing with misconceptions, you really need to point back to the proof and the path that these innovators have made for from the past into the future. I think there are so many people who feel held back in the education system because they're a little misunderstood because of their dyslexia. Um, and those myths persist in our education system, unfortunately. But the thing I always like to point out is that Einstein felt misunderstood when he was in school and he failed several times, but he's still considered one of the smartest people ever. And he was a dyslexic. So it's those people who, although they're misunderstood, although they feel like they're not smart enough, they persist. And ultimately, they are our future innovators. I love to point at the people who have really changed the world and who have been dyslexic.
Oh, yeah, I like that you brought up Einstein also because he's such a wonderful example. Um,
He is. He really is. It's a really good example also of how dyslexics can be both in science and the creative and the arts. It seems like so many dyslexics are creative because they think out the box and all that, but that also applies to science and to STEM. And I think that's such a useful aspect in science because not everything can be formulas or inside a box. It's really important to kind of branch out and to think of new ideas and new theories.
what were some obstacles that you had to face, and what really helped you to be able to overcome them and like have that like mentality to keep like going if sometimes things got hard?
Yes, absolutely. They do get hard. They get hard for everybody, but especially for dyslexic in education. Um, I think the biggest challenge I faced was absolutely my own stigma about my own intelligence. For years and years, probably until I got to college, did not think I was a very smart individual. Yes, I got into my university. I was very proud of that, but I thought, I got in because I was lucky or I had a good day when I took the test that helped me get into my university. And that was just kind of it. Like, who knows? Maybe I'll get through the 4 years, maybe I won't. I don't know. But it wasn't until I got to college and I really started to challenge myself and to kind of broaden my perspective of my own intelligence and my own capabilities that I finally realized there's so much more that I can give to the world. There's so much more I can achieve if I just put myself out there and kind of let go of my past misconceptions about myself. That stigma internally is something that's kind of perpetuated from the outside, but so many dyslexics, because they don't aren't given the tools that they need to learn always, they feel like they're not very smart. They're put in this education system where it's not built for them, and so they ultimately fail, and then they feel like they're just less intelligent than their peers. And I think to some degree that happened to me as well. But once I kind of figured out I needed to broaden my own perspective, put myself out there in situations where sometimes I would succeed and sometimes I wouldn't, it really helped me solidify the fact that yes, I am intelligent and I have so much more to give.
Okay, that was thank you so much for that. Um,
Yeah.
I like how you really talked about how it was something that came from you and how it was like you really worked to get more confidence. And I thought that was really great because I feel that's something that a lot of people are like actually like struggling with actually because of like the coronavirus and the pandemic. So could you maybe talk a little bit more about how that's impacted you personally, I would say? Um,
Absolutely. I never expected my senior year of university to be spent all online, but that's how it's ending. It's the global pandemic we never expected, but in a lot of ways, I'm really thankful for it because it's kind of pushed me out of my own comfort zone that I kind of crafted over 3 years. Going to in-person classes and being on a campus and having people I can just kind of turn to and talk to and ask questions or go to a professor in person and ask questions if I don't completely understand something. It's also pushed me to kind of figure out how to be a better communicator. I think when it comes to just having Zoom calls like this, or writing an email, or messaging friends who I know is in the same class as me, I need to have kind of everything in order in order to be organized and to be able to communicate effectively. And that's such a big part of succeeding in life in classes, but also in being a dyslexic, because a lot of times we are not taught how to communicate how we're feeling about a subject or about a class or not understanding something that we've learned in class. And doing that in person is one thing, but being able to do that when you are maybe in a different state or, close but not in person still, that's that's a different perspective, but it kind of forces you to be adaptable. And I think that's such a valuable life skill, a work skill, an education skill. And for me, it's been really interesting and kind of eye opening to do my classes online, especially in a college and university environment.
Final question of our mini interview. So, what is one word that you would use to describe dyslexia and why, I guess?
I think diverse is the best word you could use. That's what I always think of, especially, when I'm looking up information for me to kind of post and kind of put out there into the world about dyslexia. I learned so much about dyslexia and the people who have it. And it seems like there's so many who decide not to let it get them down, and they choose to see it as a strength. And I think that diverse thinking is something that not all differences or challenges, especially the invisible challenges like dyslexia, not everybody is able to do that. And I think that out of the box thinking and that I'm going to make it better because I have something that's different, that is so unique to being a dyslexic, and their ability to really affect any kind of career field if they have the passion and the drive to do it. To me, it's so inspiring, but it's also so diverse. And I'm just so proud to be a dyslexic because of it.
Yeah, concludes our interview series. Once again, thank you so much for being here. It was really great to hear from you about what you're doing to advocate for dyslexia and your own personal experiences as well. I know I learned so much, and I think the followers on Instagram will really enjoy it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to you, and I cannot wait to see if this video will hopefully help somebody or improve somebody's journey with dyslexia.